Keir Starmer. This constant fact that he harks on about being chief prosecutor. He's not, he's called Director of Public Prosecutions. But chief prosecutor, what does it make him sound like? It makes him sound like a figure out of Stalin's Russia. In Starmer's eyes, he is clearly of impeccable character. He is always right.
Keir Starmer made a catastrophic mistake that effectively signed the death warrant for his party. The streets are filled with rage and hatred towards Labour, and frankly, who can blame them? However, this time Starmer did not just stumble, he crossed a line beyond which there is no return. His decision is so crazy and short-sighted that it will inevitably cut his term in office in half, leaving his party on the edge of the abyss. Emotions are boiling, and the consequences of his actions will be felt for a long time. Yes, it's the bitter truth. Starmer is now acutely aware of the lack of public support. The situation is really alarming. The Labour Party, which once celebrated a triumphant victory over the Conservatives, now seems to have fallen into the trap of serious rivals. Society seems to be gripped by an aversion to them, and this feeling is only getting stronger.
Well, the opinion polls tell us, don't they? They have plummeted in a way that looks a bit like an alpine avalanche. He's literally fallen off a cliff. I think there are very real reasons for this. When you're looking at this kind of thing, you always look, well, has there been anybody like this before? I think the answer is one very obvious figure, and that is Theresa May. That she has the same sort of rigidity, the same sort of strange sense. She always called it public service. He constantly goes on about this. She even used a similar phrase, which was strong and stable.
Well, Starmer made the fatal mistake of undermining Labour's support again. At the moment, they are barely holding on to a measly 33%, having said goodbye to the majority for the sake of Reform UK. Recent polls show that their rating has soared from 14.7% to an impressive 21%. This is really a significant leap, isn't it? The Reform Party is just one step closer to the top spot. At the moment, she is ahead of the Conservatives by 1%, who lost 4% of the vote and now have only 20%. This is a real disaster for Starmer. His nemesis is on the way, ready to take his place in Downing Street.
Every single vote still has to be earned. We've got another 6 days to go, and it is very, very important to make the argument that if you want change, you have to vote for it. This is a big choice election because it's either 5 more years of what we've just had for 14 years, because nothing's going to change. That means the NHS won't get better. We'll still be in a sort of low-growth, high-tax doom loop. Or we can choose a different path and start to rebuild.
Well, we're all thrilled, and we're sure no one will miss him when Starmer leaves. Farage launched his Brexit campaign at a time when he completely dominated the European Union. He was hailed as a hero of Brexit, and he fought with fierce zeal against everything related to the EU, playing a key role in ensuring Britain's independence. After the triumphant victory, he declared the Independence Day of Great Britain and became a symbol of this historic moment. British voters made a bold choice, preferring to leave the European Union, and a new sun rose over the independent United Kingdom, illuminating the future. I am proud of everyone who has shown incredible courage to face threats and act according to their beliefs. Since the day Farage announced Brexit in the media, he has become a real idol for many. Love him or hate him, but it is impossible to ignore his enormous influence. This is a real disaster for Starmer.
Welcome along. Now, it's been 150 days of Sir Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. It's been the kind of car crash that the M6 will be proud of. But forget the 150 days. I've been off for 2 and a bit weeks. Let's just have a look at what's happened in that short space of time. We've had farmers' protests. Then Then it emerged that Labour was crippling British farmers to raise £520 million, but they're giving away £516 million to foreign farmers in foreign aid. Keir Starmer then, quotes, fled like a rat out of the back door whilst farmers protested the Welsh Labour.
I feel deeply disappointed by Keir Starmer's speech, and I am sure that many share this feeling of despair. Do not forget that this reflects not only my opinion, but also the results of all our national polls, which scream about Starmer's failure. Since he came to power, he has lost as many as 30 points in the ratings, which is a catastrophic drop. This guy is fast becoming one of the most unpopular prime ministers we've seen in a long time, and his rating continues to plummet. This means that people strongly disapprove of his policies, and now he has minus 13 in the ratings. If you don't understand what this means, then it's worth noting that he is on the verge of disaster, and his political career is hanging by a thread.
I got called with the Speaker to ask a question in PMQs. Well, the Prime Minister was not going to answer my direct question in any way at all, and all those Labour MPs screaming and shouting at me, gosh, it felt like being back in the European Parliament. I really rather enjoyed it. But the serious point, of course, and he's right, that with a population that has exploded over the course of the last few years, the previous government did not build enough prison places. But the whole question of early release, I mean, what is the point of a sentence if people are let out after only serving 40% of it? One of the people released from one of the northern prisons yesterday had, wait for it, 109 previous convictions. So that person, I would say, is bound to reoffend.
He really missed his big chance, didn't he? This makes it almost impossible for Starmer to regain the influence of his party after all the disastrous mistakes he has made since becoming Prime Minister of Great Britain. While Farage is rapidly winning the hearts of new voters and supporters across the country, his clear vision and decisive approach attracted a huge majority, and this cannot but cause a feeling of despair. Starmer is on the verge of collapse, and his opponents are confidently moving toward success.
I think there are very real reasons for this. When you're looking at this kind of thing, you always look, well, has there been anybody like this before? I think the answer is one very obvious figure, and that is Theresa May. That she has the same sort of rigidity, the same sort of strange sense. She always called it public service. He constantly goes on about this. She even used a similar phrase, which was strong and stable. So here is somebody, in both cases, both May and Starmer, who have a peculiar rigidity in a job which actually demands, yes, at times you have to be immensely firm, but you have to have something tactile. You have to have fingers that can sense, a nose that can smell, eyes that can see. These are people who simply don't have that.
So the last few weeks have been a real explosion of emotions and hopes for the Reform UK party. Polls show with incredible rapidity how the party's popularity is growing rapidly. Recent data shows that Reform can win 5 seats, as many as 5 more than we expected at the beginning of the campaign. These places include Claxton in Essex, Boston, Clacks, Skegness, Ashfield, and 2 more counties. But why do voters choose this particular party? Reform UK says it wants to win over people from communities that it believes have been abandoned and forgotten. If we take a close look at the regions where their ideas resonate, we will see that poverty and decline really prevailed there, much deeper than in the rest of the country. This index includes important indicators such as income, education, healthcare, and housing. Clacton, where Nigel Farage is running, is the 45th most disadvantaged constituency in the UK. But this does not mean that it will be easy for Farage. He faces serious challenges, and if he truly wants to change the lives of people in poor neighbourhoods like Clacton, he will have to focus on solving these pressing problems.
The game is up. You cannot be a lawmaker and a lawbreaker.
There was more madness as our Prime Minister is so desperate.
Nevertheless, the leader of the Reformers seems to be in control of the situation with surprising confidence. He managed to effortlessly take Claxton away from both Labour and the Conservatives, and it's just amazing. If you think that Farage is becoming more and more invincible, then you have definitely won. Nigel Farage confidently occupies a leading position, never relaxes, and always faithfully performs his duties, which has won him a special place in the hearts of voters. His rapidly growing power makes Starmer's political position increasingly vulnerable, and this cannot but cause excitement. The political game is heating up, and more people are beginning to realize that changes on the horizon are inevitable. Share your opinion in the comments. See you.